What is up, everybody? I just wanted to take a couple minutes and talk a little bit more in depth about Deadpool. Now, I did my 12-second review of it the day it came out, and those are fun and nice and whatnot. But I like this movie a lot, so I wanted to go into more detail. Just a fair warning, there's going to be a little bit of spoilers in this video, so if you haven't seen the movie, you might want to hold off on this for a little bit, because I'll talk about a little bit more in-depth things. I've seen the movie twice now. The first time I saw it, I really enjoyed it, and the second time I watched it, I think I enjoyed it even more. This is, in a lot of ways, kind of a shake-up. This was something the comic book movie genre needed. And just to throw in a little bit of a precursor, my knowledge of Deadpool is not very extensive. I have never read a Deadpool comic, and my knowledge of the character was based mostly upon what I had heard from other people about Deadpool, the trailers from the Deadpool video game from a few years back, and pretty much the trailers and hype for this movie. So for those of you that know more than me about the character, go easy on me, please, in the comments, because I am admittedly somewhat of a noob. But I want to focus mostly on just the aspects of the movie itself and what I really liked about that. My biggest worry going into this movie, after the trailers, after all the marketing, all the hype leading up to it, was that they were going to try too hard. Basically, trying too hard to make Deadpool just so off the wall and such a wild card that it was no longer believable, and basically to where you could just sense that they were trying to go too over the top. That was my biggest worry, and probably my most pleasant surprise, that I felt like most everything just fit. Ryan Reynolds and the character of Wade Wilson was just nailed, I felt, to where you get to know Wade in the sense of he's a snarky, smart-ass kind of guy that makes jokes. He's super witty, he's really sharp, and that's who he is, and that reflects into sort of his bitterness as the Deadpool character, post-trauma, I guess, mutation you could call it, and I thought that was absolutely fantastic, that they didn't go over the top with that. They didn't go over the top with the fourth wall breaking. It fit, and it wasn't overdone, and I think that in and of itself is the greatest single achievement of this movie, among, setting a couple records for an R-rated film. But that alone absolutely was my biggest worry and was my most pleasant takeaway from the whole experience. On top of all of that, this was a pretty good love story. I thought they did that aspect of things really, really well, as opposed to where you just have two characters and it's like, hey, you're attractive, I'm attractive, we're in love now, just because we were in the same place at the same time. You actually see these two people that sort of have a compatible sense of humor of trying to outdo each other with who had the more jacked up background, and you see that chemistry, you see it develop to where, obviously, a lot of it's predicated on the rough sex that we see them have, and that's part of it. That's part of the character, from what I can gather. And you have the other aspect, though, where you see them develop that connection, they develop that bond, and it was believable and made you care that much more about the entire love story, especially, the part in the strip club when Wade is trying to approach Vanessa again for the first time, and he just feels so torn, so unprepared about what she might think, but then when the situation gets dire, all bets are off. But again, the love story aspect really made it one of the better Valentine's Day movies of all time, maybe the best in my opinion, because, name a good one out there. Seriously. Another major thing, again, is the notion of just shaking up the whole formula of the superhero genre. Now, not to say that the way things have been have necessarily gotten stale, but I could see them eventually getting to that point without a shakeup like this one, and where you have people voting with their dollar and bringing success to a movie like this, to where studios can move forward and feel confident that, yes, if we do something a little bit more bold and we do it right, that it will generate revenue. That can open up a lot of new avenues for exploring other characters, and there's so many that you could explore within all the comic book characters, all the universes. There's so much that you can tie in, and I think that could open up a lot of possibilities for other R-rated comic book movies, and maybe just movies in general, blockbuster type movies, that people are okay with the notion of, I don't care if they say a lot of bad words, and if they show a little bit of light nudity, this is a really good story, and it's a really good character that we care about, and yes, we will pay our money to see. That is huge for movies in general, and not to overhype some monumental importance over Deadpool, but it made a statement, no doubt. One thing I definitely don't want to see a massive overkill of, and I'm a little bit worried that other movies might try this to a larger degree than they might otherwise have done prior, is breaking of the fourth wall. Again, I thought Deadpool did a really good job with it. There was a good balance, it was well done, and it didn't really feel over the top to me. But that's part of Deadpool's character, and that's why people understand that going in. It's essentially an expectation, and there's very few movies ever that have been able to pull off breaking the fourth wall so well. And I thought that's why the end of credit scene, spinning off of Ferris Bueller's Day Off, was brilliant, because that's another movie that did really well with breaking the fourth wall. There's obviously a limit to how much you can do it, and again, Deadpool understood that, Ferris Bueller's Day Off understood that, and I can't off the top of my head think of many other movies that have really attempted a lot of fourth wall breaking, but it's a very delicate balance, again, that Deadpool did great at maintaining. One thing that jumped out to me in a big way, especially on my first viewing, was the parallels that Deadpool had to the movie V for Vendetta. Now, I know that is crossing over two different comic book universes. They're not related in any way, but there definitely were parallels. And I don't just mean in the sense of you have this person that was mangled by somebody and is now out for revenge. Obviously, that's a notion that can be captured in probably hundreds of stories at this point, but when you go to the imagery of the mangled, burning body kind of standing prominently among the smoldering fires of the facility that created him into this monster that he's now become, you had that in both V for Vendetta and in Deadpool. You also had a scene toward the end of Deadpool where he kind of rolls over the cars and is going after all the guys that have guns with just his swords, not at all unlike in V for Vendetta when he goes after everybody with the knives. And granted, both of them were great scenes. I would give the advantage to V for Vendetta between the two over the slow motion attacking with blades type of scene against a bunch of guys with guns. But again, two fantastic movies. V for Vendetta is one of my all-time favorites, and so drawing parallels to that is not going to be a turnoff for me. It's just something that I noticed, and again, to do it well, I think is great, and especially when you're comparing just an ultra serious character like V versus the complete opposite in Deadpool, it can work. It can almost work as like an unintentional parody of each other, because they're two characters with vastly different personas that basically execute justice in the same way, and I really enjoyed it in both cases. Anyway, that is just a couple of my quick thoughts on Deadpool. I really enjoyed it, obviously, but for those of you that have a little bit of a deeper attachment than me, because like I said, I'm not as knowledgeable about Deadpool. I haven't read any of the comics, and my exposure is basically limited to this movie. So if you know a little bit more, tell me about what you thought of this movie in the comments. Things you liked, things you didn't like, things you thought maybe should have been included that we missed out on for now. And also things that you want to see in the sequel, because based on the success of this one, we're definitely getting a sequel. And again, I think this is just a great shakeup for comic book movies in general, to show that people are okay with a more R-rated experience, and basically the vote has been cast with people's dollars, and in the end, that's pretty much what matters. So let me know what you thought of it all. If you did enjoy this video, please click the like button. I always appreciate that. It helps me out a ton. And if you want more videos, be sure to subscribe, because I'm going to be making more. Might be a little bit less Star Wars moving forward, because that's sort of cooling off until Rogue One comes around in about 10 more months, and then it'll probably heat back up. But it'll be fun either way. As always, everybody, though, thank you so much for watching.